Good evening, one and all. Welcome to another session of C programming. In this session, let us see functions. So, functions. So, what are functions? Any C program, any program which is having a header and a body is called a function. In the sense, I'm just giving a simple example. It is your main function. This is the body of the function, and here we are going to give the header files. So any function which is having the header and a body part is called a function. So what we will do in this function, your main is a function where the C execution starts from the main, right? So here what we will do, we will write some set of instructions. We'll write some set of instructions. So what are these set of instructions do? They perform some specific task. If you want to add two numbers or add some n numbers, multiply n numbers, swapping the numbers, finding the factorial, whatever it is, you will write a program following the syntax in this uh, block of statements, right? In this flower parenthesis, you will be writing that block of statements, set of statements to execute that particular task. Now, like if I'm having a massive program, some suppose like I'm having 1,000 lines of program. In that, I have to add at some part of code, I have to add some n numbers. Thereafter, I have to multiply that n numbers. Thereafter, I have to divide that n numbers. Thereafter, again, I have to add. Thereafter, again, I have to multiply. Okay. So, here in this first scenario, I have to add, and second, I have to multiply, and I have to divide, and again, I have to add. So here I am performing the same operation two times, right? So instead of doing like this, right? Instead of doing writing this code some n times, I'll just write the code for the add here, and I'll be going to use that function or call that function whenever required. Okay, so these sort of functions we will see, like why you have to use functions and what is the syntax for using functions, for declaring functions, all those things let us see. So we can say any C program or any program which is having a header file and a header and a body is known as a function. So and now I'll just show you the just let us know the advantages and uses of the functions. So reusability, as I said, instead of declaring the code so many times, we can reuse that piece of code wherever required, right? Next is readability, right? It is very easier to read, understand the code for a new person even. And next, we can write small program smaller. So these are the advantages of writing the function. Now here, up to now, is that you have written any function? Yes, you have written your main function. Your main is also a function which is doing some task. Okay, now I'll just give you the syntax of declaring the function. So it is a return type, function name, and here I'm opening the parenthesis. In the main, we have given nothing between the parentheses. Now, I can declare a variable list over here. I can call them as parameters. Okay, so here parameter list you can say as well. The variables that are declared in between these braces are called as parameter list, right? Now I'm just writing some set of code here. I'll write some set of code here, and this is the parameter list. Okay, or argument list also you can say. So what it is? Argument list, right? Now let us see what are the different types of return types we can give. Okay, you can give an integer type, you can give a character type, you can give a float type as well. And if it is returning nothing, if the function returns nothing, return in the sense, I'll just let you know, so you can give void if it returns nothing. Okay, so this is the return type. And my function name is, for suppose I am adding, so you can give addition, you can give just add, or you can give xyz. But if you give the name something like this, you can be when the program is going larger and larger, you can guess what type of function it is doing, what type of task you are doing in that particular function. You can just analyze that. So giving the related names for a function name or a variable name makes your task or makes the error checking easier. Okay, so for this I'm doing the addition function, so I'm just giving the add and parameter list. I just want to pass two values, so I'll just give int n1 and int comma int n2. Okay, so this is the parameter list. Now my second next question is that we have to declare one variable or two variables. No, you can declare any number of variables, you can pass any number of variables over here. Okay, and thereafter flower braces and set of code, set of instructions, I can say instructions. Okay, ending with the flower braces, right? So here I'm just writing a sub function over here, and I will call this sub function in my main function. How many times I require, I can call that function. So now I'll just give you the difference between a called function, which is called a called function, and which is called a calling function, right? Main is a calling function. For suppose I am calling your name, I am the calling function and you are the called function. So main is the calling function which is calling some other program. So add is the called function over here, and main is the calling function here, right? So my next question is that we have to declare how many subfunctions we can call. Any number of subfunctions we can call from the main function. And the next question is that we have to call any function from the main function itself? No, you can call, suppose here I am having the add function, right? So in the add function I have to again I write a set of instructions for add, and I'll just declare a print message here, some print f hi, and again after adding with the result, I'll just subtract, I'll just call another subtraction function, right? In the sub function also you can call other function. From the main function you can call other function. Main function is called the calling function and the sub function is the called function. Again from the sub function you can call other functions. So there is no limit in calling the functions, and in a C program, if you write a C program, there must be minimum one function, and that must be main. Must and should main function must be there. Minimum one function must be there, and that should be main function itself, right? So this is the syntax of declaring a functions, right? And this is the example you can see the for functions, right? And like again I'm just giving another function definition and declaration. RETION, right? Function definition and a function declaration. So you must know the difference between the definitions of these particular two wordings, right? Definition in the sense where I am writing my set of instructions for the subprogram. This is the function definition. And here declaration is nothing but I'm just using the add function, telling the compiler that I'm going to use this function. Suppose it is my main function, right? I have written some set of instructions over here, right? And here I'm just writing the logic for add function outside the main function. So I'm just calling the function here. So if you see here, this is the function declaration. You are declaring, it is just a kind of thing like when you are going outside, you will just write a list, right? Whatever you want to purchase outside or whatever the works that you have to do outside, without losing your memory, you just write the list of functions, like list of works you have to do when you go outside, you will write a list. Likewise, I'm telling the compiler that these are the different kinds of functions I'm just going to use in future, right? In the remaining program. So I'll just say, I can say this is the function declaration. You are declaring that you are going to use these functions here. And wherever you write the logic, this is called function definition. Writing the logic is nothing but the function definition. Okay, and whenever you want to you want to use that logic, you will just call the function. So when you're calling the function, this is the calling function and this is the called function, right? Now let us see the definition quickly. And here, a function is a self-contained block of statements that perform a coherent task of some kind. You can say every C program is a collection of one or more functions. If you want, next point is, if you want to perform a task repeatedly, addition, I want to do it 3 times in my main function. So without writing 3 times the logic, I'll just separate that piece of logic outside the main function and I will call that whenever required. Okay, so if it has only one function, it must be main. If any C program is having only one function, that must be your main function. Execution of function always starts with main. Obviously, when you compile a program, first the C compiler checks where the main function is. There may be a number of functions, some n number of functions, that may be a 10, 100, any number of functions you can write. But your C program checks for the first, initially it checks for the main function and it starts execution there. Okay, and here another point, if you are giving what the sequence you are giving over here, I'll just call mul. Okay, and here I'll call subtraction. So the sequence of execution will be the sequence of functions calling over here. First int will be here you are calling the int function. So the control goes to the addition function, operates over there, and the control comes back here. And again, it implements the multiplication function, goes to the multiplication subfunction, executes the logic over there, and come back and executes and just does the this. So the sequence of executing will be one after another. Okay, the order you have given. Going back, uh, functions usually take in data, process it, and return the data. Okay, so this is the example, and let us see quickly. Let us see the example, right? I'm just opening an online compiler. Right. Mm, okay, before that, online is C compiler, right? Before that, we have seen how to declare a function. Now we will see how many ways you can pass, I mean you can give functions. So there are two ways. So what are they? Call by value and call by reference. Okay, so these are the two ways of declaring a functions. And now methods. So it is function with no arguments. So what are the arguments over here? Arguments are nothing but after writing the function name, you'll just give in the parameter list. Those are nothing but the arguments. Okay, function with no arguments and no return value. Next, function with arguments, that means some int a, int b. Okay, how it executes, I'll just show you. Function with arguments and no return value. Next is function with no arguments and return value. Okay, and function with arguments and a return value. No return value, and yes, it is a return value. So what is this return value here? You came to know about the argument list. Okay, no arguments list means you will just declare a subfunction over here. This is my main function. Okay, I have declared some set of statements I have given, and this is my subfunction, right? So here I am not giving any parameters. That means no arguments are giving. Okay, here I am calling that particular function, right? So you have to, when that at the time of calling and at the time of declaration, you are declaring that you are going to use this particular function. So at the time of declaration and at the time of calling, you must end it with a semicolon. Okay, but at the time of definition, you should not give a semicolon. When you are declaring that you are using these functions, you have to end up with a semicolon, and when you are calling the function, you have to end up with a semicolon as well. Now like you first, let us see this no arguments and a no return value. No arguments means here in the parameter list I have given no arguments, and no return value. If it executes over here, set of statements. Okay, so it is going to execute over here, and only the control is coming back to the calling function, and it is getting nothing. It is returning nothing. It means the return value. It is, if it is carrying some value to the calling function, you can say it is the function with return value. If it is returning nothing, if it is giving no values, you can say it is with no return value. Okay, so let us now see an example for function with no arguments and a no return value. Okay, so now let us declare. I'm just using print function. I'll just use message function. I'll just use some, you can say okay, we will just up to here. Now in the main function I'll just call the function print, or else printf hi from main function. Okay, so I will call print function. So here what will be the output? The output will be similar like this. I will write. So control C, and I'm just pasting the here. We have to get this output. Okay, so if you give print over here, you have to write the int. I'm just defining my declared function. So I'll just write printf hi from sub function print, right? So next I have declared that I'm going to use another sub function message as well. So I'll just give int message, right? So I'll just give prin printf function g message, right? So here I'll just write the print function. So what will be the output over here? Hi from sub function print. Okay. Next message. Okay, so here it must return the output after executing. What is the output? I'm just writing on the writing as a comments, so that we will be okay. If you again, you can again call the print statement. If you again call the print function, it will be going to print this thing. Control C. Okay, so I'm just again calling the print function. Again after that, I'll just call the message function. So what must be the output? Hi from sub function message. So in this order we have to get the output, right? So first initially we have declared that I am going to use these two functions in my future further program. Okay, like we have declared with the ending with a semicolon. In the main function I have called the print. So initially execution starts from the main, right? So next from the first line of statement it starts execution in the main. So what happens in the printf statement? First line of statement is printf. So it just blindly prints whatever there in the print. It just blindly puts onto the output screen. So here this is high function from the main. Next it goes to the print function. It searches where the print function sub function is. It is here. So whatever the task you have done, it just does the task. Okay, and the control return back. It is returning anything? No, it is just the control is alone going. It is not carrying any value or any string, those kind of thing. It is just control alone coming back. If the control comes with a value, it is called a function with a return value. Okay, that we will see in the later programs. Okay, next is it goes to the message. So whatever the set of statements you have given in the message, it just prints the message. And then next print, so goes here again, next print again goes here, next message goes here. So order that is depends on the requirement. Okay, I just want to print 5 times sub function message and then 5 times print. So in that order you have to write. So let us run the program. Yeah, uh, expected semicolon before this, right? So let us do it again. right? We have given no backslash n's. So let me give backslash n so that you can know thoroughly. Here for every, if you give like this so that it will be more clear, it will be printing in the next line. If you give backslash n, it will be printing in the new line. Right, see here, hi from main function. Next, it is hi from subfunctions, right? Subfunction print. Next, the order I have given the calling the functions, in those order it has printed. So this is the example for function with no parameters and no return value, because here the control came, printed this statement, and the control went back to the calling function main, and it is not going to take, it has not taken any values with it. The control is not carrying any values. If it carries either values or strings, we can say that it is returning some value to the calling function. Okay, so this is the example for function with no arguments and no return value. Okay, let me show you another thing, example, that is function with, okay, function with arguments and a return value. So here I'm just going to declare my add function. So that's in the sense I'm just saying that I will be using this add function. Okay, the parameter list we will be seeing in the later. We are using the parameters, but how many values we will be adding, we will be while executing, we will see those things. Okay, so here I'll just ask the user like int a, or else you can give n1, n2, and some result. Okay, printf, enter values, scanf, percentile t, percentile t, ampersand, it is the variable name n1, comma n2, it is ampersand n2, right? Next I have to call the add function. So what I will do, I'll just write add. Okay, now what is our example? Our example is function with parameters. So I'll just pass the parameters n1 comma n2. Okay, so that whatever the user is giving values over here in the output screen, those values will be stored in n1 and n2. Okay, and here let us write completely slowly. Int, my function name is add, I am defining over here, right? So now I have to write the logic over here. So how many values I am passing? Okay, here you are passing some two values, right? These two values, control will take two values to the subfunction. So here there must be something to hold the values. When the compiler is passing two values, here I am in the subfunction, I have to hold those two values. So for that I am declaring some int a comma int b, right? Now, right, int a and int b. Now I'll just write the logic over here. So int sum equals to a plus b. So here my question is whether I have to display in the subfunction or I have to display in the main function, right? If I want to display in the subfunction, I'll just give printf percentile t, comma, it is sum, right? Now we will just give a return 0 over here. Yes, okay. So here first I have declared two variables and I ask the user to enter two values, the three variables including the result. Okay, if you are not returning any value, the result is not necessary. Okay, leave it. Now I have read the two variables from the user. Now I'm calling the function add, as I'm adding passing two values, n1 equals to 5 and n2 equals to 5. The control holds these two values and passes to the sub function. So here in the sub function also we have to mention two variables to hold those two values. Now I have declared a int a and b, right? So here I have declared sum and I am printing over here. So let us see here. I'm just running the program. Here I have to give the values 5 and 6. See here 11. We are printing over here itself, right? Now this is the example for functions with parameters and no return value, because I am adding the logic, wrote the add logic here and I'm printing the logic here. And now if I want to take back the value to the main, so I can say it is the example for function with parameters and a return value. But here in this program, I'm not at all returning any value to the calling function. So here, this is the example for function with parameters and no return value. So the same program, let us do some small alterations and we will see the example function with the return value. So here I just don't want to print the result in the sub function itself. I just want to print in the main function, so that the control has to carry the result of adding two numbers to the main function. So I am returning something to the main function. So here I have to store the result. So res, right? Here after adding, okay, I am just adding the returning sum. Okay, so after adding these two values, they will be storing in the sum, and in this sum is going to return to the main function. Here the resultant will be stored in the result variable. Okay, so here result will catch the value. Okay, now I have to print the result. Printf percentile t, comma. So what is the variable? It is res. Just simply I am giving. Now let us execute. Enter two values. So I'll just give 40 and f5, 45. So here what it is doing, it is executing the logic over here and returning the value sum to the main function. So this is the example for function with arguments and a return value. Previous example is function with arguments and no return value, and this is function with arguments and a return value as well. Okay, and like if you pass the arguments with no arguments and no return value, we have seen, and likewise only it will be function with no arguments and return value. We will be executing over here, right? And we will just return the value, write the logic over here, and with no passing the values, we will just pass the answer itself. That means pass the value itself to the calling function. That will be the example for function with no arguments and a return value. Okay, so wherever you want to print the result, or else wherever you want to get back the values from the called function, then you have to give a return statement, right? So these are the ways, methods how to declare the functions. Now here let us see the what do you mean by call by value. So here we have already seen the call by value. Let me show you simpler, right? Here I am just calling the function. Here what I have stored in n1 and n2, what I have stored in n1 and n2, in n1 and n2 I have stored the values, right? Some I have given n1 equals to 400 and n2 equals to 5. So I am passing the values to the called function, right? So this n1 will be value in the n1 will be stored in A. So I am calling a function by value with reference to the value. By value, I am just calling the function. So you can see this is the example for function by call by value. Okay, ways of declaring a function by call by value. So next, if we declare over here, so what is meant by the call by reference? Call by reference. So call by reference is nothing but here in my sub function, I'll just pass the, while calling the function, I'll just call the add function. Up to now, I have declared passed two values, right? N1 and N2. Passed the values, right? So now I'll just here pass the address ampersand N1 and ampersand N2, right? So here I'm passing the address. Now in my sub function, when in defining my sub function, here the thing is I have to declare a pointer variable. If I am giving the address over there in the to pass the, if I am passing the address here, I must have the pointer variable, because pointer variable only can hold the address and point to that particular value. So that in while the function definition, I have to give the int a comma int b, right? And you can write directly the logic for adding. So this is nothing but your call by reference. If you pass the address between two functions, it is called call by reference, right? And next, other important topic in the functions is recursion. Recursion. So what is recursion? Recurring, repeating. Re means again, again. So recursion, calling its own function, you can say calling its own function, those many times, okay, calling its own function. So I'll just show you the example. I have written the main function. Now here I have called the add function, okay. So here I just declared the defined the add function. I have given the logic for the add function over here, some set of statements, and I'm just calling my add function over here. So add function is calling its name itself, okay. So this is nothing but recursion. So until the condition fails or else until it satisfies, we will be calling this function. So, recursion is nothing but calling its own function. I can say calling my own name. So function, calling its own function is nothing but a recursion simply, okay. So just simply let us see the example for recursion and what are the drawbacks for recursion. So recursion will be leading, sometimes it will lead to some infinite loops. Sometimes recursion will be leading to the infinite loops. Let me show you the image here. If you take the recursion, just a simple, yeah, this will be fine, okay. So here recursion is my function name here, and in the recursion Okay, I am calling the self function name recursion until the condition fails. It will be iterating, it will be rotating there itself. So this is nothing but the recursive functions. Mm, so we can see in detail about the recursion, and here call by value, call by, yeah, and the important point, formal arguments and an actual arguments. Int main, I'm just calling add n1 and n2. Okay, so these are the, from this main I am passing the values to the add function, int a and int b, right? So these are called actual arguments. That means the original values, those variables hold the original values that the given by the user, are called as actual arguments, right? And these are the formal arguments. Okay, so the values in the formal arguments may change. You can change the values in the formal arguments, but not the values in the actual arguments, right? And one more thing is that I have to declare another variable. Can't I give n1 like this with the same name? Yes, you can give with the same name, but the compiler obviously consider that these as two different variables and these as different variables. Okay, so for a better readability and for a better understanding, as it is considered as four different variables by a program, so you can give the names like this directly. For our convenience we are giving, even though if you give the same names it will treat as four different values. And these are the actual arguments, you can say, where the value never changes, value will not change, the value given by the user will not change throughout the program. And here these are the formal arguments and these are the temporary variables as well, you can see. Okay, uh, so these are the formal arguments and these are the actual arguments, the values, actual values given by the user. Okay, and next here you can see the call by reference. Okay, so here you can see the best image for the recursion. Here this is in the main function, I have he has called the recursion function. Over there it is going to the recursion function, and again the function, the same function is calling its name. So this is nothing but the recursion. Okay, limitations of recursion. Recursions usually may slower, may cause stack overflow if recursion goes to solve the problem, and difficult to debug and trace the values for each step. That means if it goes in logical errors, so it is difficult to trace the errors. And advantages: reduce unnecessary calling of functions. uh, Calling those many different number of times, you can call by self calling, you can reduce the unnecessary calling of functions. So recursion one can solve problems easily, this is one of the advantages. Okay, recursion, we can solve some sort of problems easily. And then this is the example for recursion. And next, Fibonacci using recursions and see standard library functions. Okay, let us see the, hope you are very familiar with the functions. So what are functions? You must be, at the end of the session you must be knowing about the definition of the function, what is the syntax, and what are the methods to declare a function, what are the ways to declare a function, and what is a recursive function, right? And now next one is some, let us see some C standard library functions. See, standard library functions are nothing but the inbuilt functions. Inbuilt functions are nothing but when you are some sqrt, instead of writing, if you want to find the square root, instead of writing, sorry, the logic for the square root, directly use, you can use sqrt function. Okay, so that directly you can find the square root of a particular number, and the power as well, exponential, and string copy from string.h. And these functions will be in the header library math.h, header file math.h, and these functions will be in the string handling functions string.h, those kind of things. Now, this dynamic memory allocation will be discussed in the next session. Thank you all.